All right, well, we can go ahead and get started. I'm Lauren. For those of you who don't know me or if we haven't met yet, it's good to see you all. Today, we're basically just going to be going over a tune. If you guys saw the email, you probably know the name of the tune, Red Haired Boy. How many of you are familiar with that tune? Couple people. Okay, awesome. Yeah, so we're going to be kind of delving into that a little bit more, starting with the melody, kind of learning that by ear. And then we're going to kind of break down the chords and different ways to play the chords and just kind of back up and things like that. So, has anybody been to a live jam? A live jam session? By show of hands. Yeah? Anybody else? Okay, one person? Cool. Well, Diane, would you mind sharing a little bit about your experience? If you don't want to, it's fine. I'm just curious about what your experience with the jam was like.
Yeah. Um, well, for me, knowing the tunes ahead of time is really a plus because I can't really learn a tune on the go, you might say. You know, I'm
Right.
so the jams that I used to attend when I lived in California, we pretty much would get the list ahead of time, and that'll give you a chance to go over some of the
Interesting.
tunes.
Okay, cool. See,
And
and I've
then
never been to a jam where that's the case. It's always one of those things, in my experience, where you go and you either know the tunes or you don't. So that's really cool that you've
Yeah,
had
well,
that.
it's not 100%, but at least if you can play, 80% of them, if you know that
Right.
many, and you're always learning more. But
Right. Yeah, that's awesome. Does anybody else have any other jam session stories? It looks like we might have a couple more people that joined us. We're just talking about our experiences with live jams. Or has anybody else been to these workshops or these like virtual jam sessions? Okay. Cool. Hi, Sarah. Awesome. Well, so like Diane was saying, in her case, she saw a list of the tunes and kind of got familiar with them ahead of time, but a lot of times that's not always the case. So today we're going to kind of talk about what happens if you find yourself in a live jam situation where, a tune comes up and you've never heard of it, you don't know anything about it, you're not familiar with, and how to kind of work around that. And the main things are just being able to learn by ear and be able to kind of pick up on the melody by ear. So we're going to be talking about that with this tune. And then also, if you know the key and are familiar with the key and the finger pattern, you can pretty much play anything. And so you don't always have to play the melody if it's a tune that you're not familiar with. You could start with, playing the chords or just drones and things like that. So if you know the key, there's definitely ways that you can do that. By the way, can everybody hear me okay? Audio sounds good? Okay, awesome. Cool. So, like I said, the name of the tune we're going to be doing is The Red Haired Boy. So, what I'm going to do is just play that for you guys so you can hear what it sounds like for those who aren't familiar. We're in the key of D major for this one. So, it goes like this. All right. So we're gonna kind of break that down. The melody, we're gonna just kind of go phrase by phrase, and then we'll work on the chords. So like I said, we're in the key of D major for this one. So let's just start by playing a simple D major scale. So we'll just start on open D. We're just gonna do a 1 octave D major scale. Let's all try this together. So we'll do half notes. So 1, 2, ready, go. down. Awesome. Yeah, you all look great. So our finger pattern with this one is we have two sharps. So we've got F sharp and C sharp. So that's going to be a high second finger on both the D string and the A string. And we're going to be doing a little bit with the E string as well with this tune. You'll find when we get to the B part. But the A section is mostly on the D string and the A string. All right. Are you guys ready to jump into this tune? Awesome. All right. So for the first phrase, I'm just going to kind of slow it down. We're starting on an open A. Goes like this. So just try to repeat it back as best you can. Good, good. I'll play that one more time in case you all want to hear it again. Awesome. And then we go up to a C sharp. Good, good. So a little bit of a different pattern there, starting on that C sharp. I'll play it one more time. So go ahead and try that. Good. So now if you feel like you have it, go ahead and play along with me these first two phrases. If not, go ahead and just listen. And one thing that's really helpful when you're learning something by ear is to just simply listen and try to kind of finger along. So this is what I've heard to be called ghost playing. So it's when you just silently play along without using your bow. So you're kind of more just allowing yourself to listen and hear what's happening with the melody while trying your best to figure out the finger pattern. All right, so we're gonna start from the beginning, just those first two phrases. Here we go. 1, 2, ready, go. Cool. Do we all feel good about that? Anybody need to go over any of that again? Feeling good? Okay, cool. So let's move on to the next part. So we start again on a C sharp. Good. Yep, and just ending on those two open A's. All just separate bows. Good. Yep, and then for the next one, we come to our third finger D on the A string. Good, yeah, so we're ending there on a G on our D string, so starting on our third finger on A, ending on our third finger on D. So again, that sounds like... Good. Okay. So now let's go back and let's try those two short little phrases together, starting on the C sharp. So as a quick reminder, I'll just play you how that sounds and then we can play it together. All right. So let's do that together. 1, 2, ready, go. How's everybody feeling about that so far? Are we still good? Okay, so now this is exciting because now we get to play something that we've already learned before, which is in the very beginning of the tune. So we go back and we play what we did in the very beginning, starting on open A, and it sounds like this as a reminder. So let's try that. Good, and I'll play it with you this time. So same thing, just that first phrase coming back around. 1, 2, 3. right, so now we go up to the E string, and we're going to be using our fourth finger for this one. So for those of you who aren't as familiar with the use of the fourth finger, make sure that you have your elbow in a position where you can comfortably reach that. We're going up to a B with it, so make sure you're kind of positioned in a way where you can easily reach that B with your fourth finger. Sometimes it's a little bit of a stretch. So let's go ahead and I'll play this last phrase. We might have to go over that a couple times, but try your best to play it back to me. Yeah, so we have our C sharp that we're starting on. So all of that is just kind of a little scale. We're just walking up C sharp, D, E, and then we've got our F sharp, A, B. This is our fourth finger, and we've got a whole step to B, and then we walk back down. So if you can get that little walk up to the E string, you should be able to get the walk back down, because we're just kind of going backwards but playing the same notes that we had before. Hi everybody who's just joining us. We're just learning the melody of a tune called Red-Haired Boy. It's a standard kind of traditional tune, and we are going over the A part right now, and we're gonna go back over it from the beginning too, if you all wanna jump in. So here we go with that last phrase. So we're starting on a C sharp. 1, 2, ready, go. Good, yep, and then just ending on the C sharp and then 2 open A's. Does anybody have any questions so far? Anything about that last phrase? That's probably the trickiest part of this whole A section. Everybody good? Okay, so let's go back to the beginning. What I'll do is I'll play through from the beginning of the A part, just so you guys can kind of hear how it sounds all put together, and then we'll come back around and we'll play it together once again. All right, so here we go. 2, 3. So that's the whole A section. Now let's try it together. We're gonna stick with that same tempo, just kind of taking it nice and slow. So here we go. 1, 2, 3. All right, you guys look great. Awesome. All right, so another thing that can be helpful too when you're kind of learning something that you're still trying to familiarize yourself with, we talked about ghost playing, where we just kind of finger the notes on the string without using our bow. Another thing that you can do is come into rest position and just kind of silently, not silently, but just softly pluck the strings. So you're kind of hearing a little bit the notes that you're playing, but you're not fully using the bow. So you're still able to kind of hear what you're listening for, but you're also able to know if you're on pitch and if you're getting the right finger pattern and things like that. All right. Does anybody have any questions about that first part? Anything we want to go back over? Don't be shy. If you're stuck on something, let me know. We all good? Awesome. All right, well, let's move on to the B part. So what I'll do is I'll just play through the B part. We have a little bit more going on the E string in this one, as I said earlier. So I'll go ahead and just play it through, and try your best to listen for patterns that we have this time. So if you hear any repetition, like in the A part, we had the first and third phrase were identical. So listen for things like that, see if anything sounds familiar to you, and see if you can maybe even kind of finger along as you're listening, and then we'll go back and we'll break it down. All right, so here we go. All right, did anybody recognize anything that sounded familiar? Any patterns that we already know? Yeah, so hopefully you recognize that the last part, the last phrase, is the same as what we ended the A part with. So that's good news for us, because that means we already know, the last half of the B section already, which is exciting. We only have about half a section of new material, and then we just repeat, kind of finish out the B section with what we're already familiar with. So let's start from the beginning here, kind of figure out these notes in the beginning of the B part. So we're starting on an open E for you fiddles, and we're just kind of walking up here. Good, yeah, so we have our open E, we're walking up to an F sharp and then a G, and then right back down, F sharp, E. Okay, so let's do that together once. 1, 2, ready, go. Good, yeah, awesome. And then we hop up to our third finger A on the E string. Good. Yeah, so we're just kind of walking down. This is literally a scale. We're just coming down from our A, third finger, all the way down to the A string. D, third finger. So let's all try that together. 1, 2, 3. All right, so if we were to put those first two little phrases together, it would sound like this. All right, so go ahead and mess around with that for a little bit. See if we can catch those notes. Awesome, looking good. All right, so let's go ahead and try just those first couple phrases together. 1, 2, ready, go. Awesome. Yeah, it looks like you guys have it. Cool. And then we're gonna go to our next phrase. so here we're starting on a C sharp. We're coming down to the A string, so this is our high second finger. And this next phrase has a little bit more going on. We've got some more notes happening here, so I'll probably break it up a little bit, but we're starting on our C sharp. All right, go ahead and give that a try. Good. So again with the scales, there's scales all over the place with this one. That's why it's always so good to play scales before, learning something new, or just when you're just starting something. If you're working on a tune or something like that, it's always so great to make sure you have the finger pattern, because we're seeing these scales pop up all over the place in this one. So let's go ahead and try that first. Starting on that C sharp, we'll try that together. 1, 2, ready, go. So we're going up and then back down. Good. And then our next little section starts on a C sharp again. So we're starting on an up bow this time. Let's try that much. Good. Yeah, I'll play that one more time. If you think you have it, feel free to play along with me. Otherwise, either sing, ghost play, pluck, whatever is easiest for you. Okay, so here we go. 1, 2, 3, 4. Awesome. Yeah, so like I said, there's a lot of notes going on there. We've got a lot of moving eighth notes happening, but it's all scales. So if you think of it that way, in terms of, we're just playing a D major scale, that should kind of simplify things, at least mentally. I find that makes it a little bit easier, because you kind of have a sense of direction of where you're going. All right, and now we're coming up to our favorite part that we already learned in the A section, so I'll go ahead and play it. Good, everybody has that, it looks like. And then we're gonna go up to our next part, which is also the same part of that phrase, the ending of the A section, also the ending of the B section. We'll start on a C sharp. 1, 2, ready, go. All right, so just as kind of a review, I'll go back and I'll just play that whole ending, both of those little phrases together, just so you can hear it again, and then we'll go back and we'll play all of that together. All right, so here we go. So let's try it together. 1, 2, 3. Good. Nice. How's everybody feeling about the fourth finger stretch? Good? Everybody in it? Awesome. Yeah, and if anybody's wondering why I'm counting to 3, we are in 4/4 time, not 3/4 time, but the first two notes that we have, A to F sharp, are both pickup notes. So we're kind of picking up into the downbeat of the first full measure. That same thing happens at each of these endings. So in the very beginning, we have, right, so the E is our 1, our downbeat of the first full measure, and then same thing whenever we come to the end. All right, hopefully that makes sense. Cool, so let's go ahead and go back to the beginning of the B section. So starting on open E. Okay, and we'll just run through this together. All right, here we go. 1, 2, 3. Cool. How are we feeling about that? Everybody good on the B part? Everybody good on the A part? We're about to go back over that in just a second. Any questions on the B part before we go back to A? Awesome. You guys are easy. Okay, so let's go back to the A part. What we're gonna do, actually, let's just run it. Let's run the whole tune. If you guys feel good about it, let's go ahead and run through. So we're gonna do the form, which is AABB, which is standard of, you know, traditional old time tune. So we're gonna run through the A part as we learned it. We're gonna go back, repeat it, and then go into the B part, play all of that we just learned, and then repeat it, and that's the tune. Okay, you guys ready? Let's give it a try. So 1, 2, beginning. Repeat. B section. Repeat. Awesome. All right, no faster. No, I'm just kidding. Hopefully you all are feeling good about that. Any questions again about either sections, A or B? Feeling good? Feeling strong? Awesome. All right, well, how about we go over those chords? Let's go ahead and see what we have going on with the chords. Anybody, I see we have a guitar player here. Does anybody have any experience with other instruments, chordal instruments, besides the fiddle? Guitar, piano, things like that? Okay, awesome. Yeah. So hopefully this will kind of resonate a little bit with you guys too. But if not, for those of you who are pretty much familiar only with the fiddle and kind of melodic instruments such as the fiddle, we're going to be kind of breaking down how to play these chords. So we're going to go over not only the names of them, but also how to physically play them, because I mean, it's a fiddle. We have endless options of how to actually play chords, which is really cool, but can also be sometimes overwhelming and confusing. So we're going to kind of break it down, some simple ways to make these chords on the fiddle, specifically with the lower register. All right, so looks like we have the chords in our chat here. Thank you, moderator. So if you guys want to take a look at those, so we've got A in the beginning. We've got D, A, G, and then we go A, D, A, E, A. Okay, so that's the A part. B part, we have G, D, A, G, A, D, A, E, A. Okay, and I'm gonna go over that, what all of that means and how to play those. But first, I actually want to play for you. Usually I have a guitar player here with me, but since we don't today, I'm gonna just play with this handy dandy recording that I made so you can kind of see and hear how these chords sound. And hopefully you all will be able to hear. 1, 2, 3, 4. So that's kind of an idea of how it sounds to play chords against a melody. And again, I know I talked about this a little bit in the beginning, but for those of you who came in after we talked about this, when you're playing in a jam setting and there's a tune that you're not familiar with, it's okay as long as you know the key. So as long as you have the idea of what the key signature is, what the finger pattern of the key is, you can kind of pick out some chords. In this case, in the key of D major, you can kind of figure out based on that. You can decide, you know, D is usually always a good go-to. Just a straight open D is always good. Right? G fits nicely within the key of D as well. So a lot of times even just playing that open fifth of G and D together as a double stop can be really good in that situation. And usually is going to sound good against the melody. Of course, there's always exceptions, but in general, if you know the name of the key, even just, you know, if a tune comes up and you're not familiar with it, even if you just ask somebody, hey, what key is this tune in? You can kind of figure out the chords based around that, and even just play some open string drones and things like that until you get a better handle on the melody. And then like we just did with learning the melody by ear, you can maybe pick up on bits and pieces of the melody during the jam. Okay, so let's go ahead and start off with our first chord. So we have an A major chord, which is going to be our first finger, A on the G string. So let's all try that together. And then what I like to do is have an E with it. So we're going to do A, first finger on G, E, first finger on D. And we're going to play those together like a double stop. So you're just going to bridge your first finger across both strings. If you want to see what that looks like. So let's try that. Good. Yeah. And then we go to our D major chord. So we actually keep our first finger on the G string, but we lift it off of the D string. So we've got our low A, and then we have an open D. And we're gonna play those together as a double stop. So again, it's just that first finger, but instead of bridging it over the D string as well, we're just gonna have it open, so that it's just on the G string. Everybody got that? Good. And then we're gonna go back to our A chord. So again, back to our first finger on the G string, first finger also on the D string, so A and E together. Good. So normally our third of an A major chord would be C sharp, A, C sharp, E, but in this case we're just omitting that third, so we just have the 1 and the 5. And that's usually okay, because it's likely that if you're in a jam setting, there will be chordal instruments there that can, you know, cover the chords for the most part. We're just kind of playing along and backing up, but generally, you know, you'll have a guitar, mandolin, depending on what style of jam you're at, banjo even, that'll be kind of laying down those chords for you, and we're just kind of following along and you know, coming up with fun rhythms to play in the background. So so we've got A, D, A, and then we go to G, and I like to just have our open G and open D here. Let's just try that. Yep, so that way we just lift up our first finger and we're already there. So this whole section, this whole series of chords is all between the G string and the D string. So as long as you can kind of get the finger patterns straight and are somewhat familiar with those, then you should be in good shape. But as far as the bow stays right there the whole time. All right. So let's go back over just those first 4 chords. We're gonna try them together, okay? We're just gonna do them as half notes. So starting with A, 1, 2, 3, 4. D, A, G. Okay, so those are our first 4, and then in the next section we have 5 chords because we have a quick change at the end. So we're gonna go from A again. So first finger on both those lower strings, and then D, back to A again, and now we have an E. So for this E, we have our first finger E down on the D string, and then we have our second finger on the G string. And both of those are a whole step apart. If you want to think about that, just kind of visualizing the distance. So let's try that E major chord together. If I can get it in tune. Good. Yep. And then we're right back to A. So our first finger comes across to the G string and D string still. Good. So the way that sequence goes is... our quick change where we just quickly go to E and then right back to A. So actually, since we're coming from A already, you could, if you wanted to, just leave your first finger on both strings and then just set your second finger on the G string as well. And then that way, all you would have to do coming back to A is just lift your second finger off, and your first finger is already planted where you had it before. That's probably the easiest way to do it, so you don't have to kind of reset everything. All right. Any questions about those chords? Everybody feel good about them? Like I said, they're in the chat if you all want to glance at those and kind of see what's going on. All right, so let's go ahead and go back over the chords from the beginning of the A part, and we're just gonna again play them as half notes. So we're starting with A. Okay, so we're gonna do 1, 2, ready, go. A, D, A, G, A, D, A, E, A. All right, everybody feel good about those changes? Hopefully. Are we ready to move on to the B part? Nod yes if we're ready to move on to the B part. Cool. Okay, sweet. So the B part is a little bit different, but again, because we had the same ending phrase at the end of the B part as we did in the A part, the chords also are the same. So that's nice. We already kind of learned the chords there for the ending. But the first part is just slightly different. And actually the only difference in chords in the B part is just one, is just the first chord. The rest of them are pretty much identical. So we're gonna give this a run through. Actually, I'll just go ahead and run through what the chords sound like, and then we'll come back around and kind of break them down. Okay, so we're starting with G. Okay, so although we did have a slightly different rhythm, and we'll talk about that at the end of the first couple phrases, the rest of the chords are pretty much identical, like I said, except for that first chord. So we're starting on a G, so just to kind of review, let's go ahead and play a G chord. This is, again, just open G and D together. Good. So we go from there to our D chord. First finger and open D. And then we come to A, so first finger on both strings. Yep, and then after that we have one G, but we're gonna divide it into two for the sake of the rhythm and kind of lining up with what the melody does there. So we're just gonna do, so just a down, up. All right, cool. And then we're ending with the same chords that we had at the end of the A section, like I said, so do you guys remember what we start on for this first chord? Hopefully you're saying A, because it's an A. So first finger together. And then we go back to D. And then back to A. And then E, A. All right, so that's the basic idea, and we'll talk a little bit about rhythms here in just a second, but first let's go back over all of the chords in the B part, and we're just gonna keep playing them as half notes. So we're just gonna do, starting on open G, open D, that G chord, so 1, 2, ready, go. D, A, G, A, D, A, E, A. Okay. Did you all catch that rhythm there at the end of the first part with the 2 Gs. Okay, so there at the end we've got, and then we've got, instead of just G as a half note, that G chord, we're just dividing it into 2 quarter notes basically. So that's the deal there. Cool, so now let's go ahead and try the chords. What I'm gonna do is I'll play the melody. We're gonna go back to the chords in the A part. So I'll play the A part melody, and then you guys play along with me. We're gonna do half notes, quarter notes, whatever makes sense to you, and see if you can kind of figure out where those changes happen along the way, because they're, we talked about with the E chord, it's a little bit quicker. Right, so this will kind of give you a feel for the placement of those chords. So we'll run through the A part slowly, and then we'll do the same for B. Okay, so I'll play through the A melody twice. Here we go. 1, 2, 3, 4. Alright, does that make sense? Did you guys figure out the placement where those chords happen? Okay, and we'll go back over that again, and just in case any of you would like to hear the placement, what I'll do is I'll just play the A part of the melody that I have recorded with the chords, so you can see, now that you know how to play the chords, you can kind of see how those fit in. Okay, here we go. 1, 2, 3, 4. So, does that make sense? Were you guys able to hear those little transitions? Okay, and it's one of those tunes where the chord changes are fairly natural. They come at pretty natural points in the phrases, so although they're not, you know, exactly spaced exactly apart, you know, the same for every single chord, it should feel fairly natural, just kind of with the way that the cadence happens and kind of the structure of the tune. So, are we feeling good about the A part? Awesome, cool. So now let's go ahead and try the B part. So same thing, I'll go ahead and play it through from the beginning of the B part. We'll go through twice, and you guys just try the best you can to play those chords. So we're starting on a G chord. So 1, 2, 3. Awesome. Yeah, you guys look great. How are we feeling about the chords? Good? Okay, awesome. Probably my favorite chord in that B section is just the G, because you can hear that it's right in sync with the melody notes, which is pretty fun. So let's see if I can back this up, and I'll kind of show you guys how these chords fit in, just in case you want to hear how that works with the B part. So that's kind of how that works. Any questions so far about any of that? Okay, if we're feeling good about the chords, I want to talk about the fun part. All of this is fun, but this is more fun, I think, and that's just kind of adding a little bit of rhythm to the chords. So, you know, sometimes it can be boring to just play just half notes, right? So what I like to do is add a little bit of rhythm, and this is something that, you know, if you're comfortable with playing different rhythms, then you can absolutely do. You can get creative with it, and you can decide based on what the tune is in a jam situation what type of rhythm to use, what would make the most sense, because not all rhythms work all of the time, but there are some rhythms that work most of the time in most situations. The one that I like to use in this one is just a simple little shuffle. So maybe let's just try that just on that first A chord. So it's just a 1 and a 2 and a 1 and a 2 and a. Yeah, so if we were to incorporate that into the chord progression that we have for this A part, it would sound like this. All right. Oh, do we have a question? I think somebody raised their hand. Is somebody question?
Yeah, that's me.
Oh, okay. What's your question?
I want to ask that while playing double stop,
Uh-huh.
the hand touches the other stringer. So is the way to avoid that?
Is what?
The fingers.
Sorry?
The fingers
So,
touch
yeah.
the other one.
So for the chord, for the double stops, yeah, with our left hand, the finger for the A chord, and for most of the chords that we're doing, it is gonna touch both strings. Is that your question?
So is there a way to avoid it? Like not touch the other string?
Oh, to not touch the other string. That's a great question. That's a very common problem too. Yeah, so let's say you're playing a D chord, and you don't want to have your first finger hitting the D string, right? So the elbow is our key in that situation, and my students kind of know what I'm talking about here, but we're gonna just bring our elbow forward. Since we're on the G string, we want to give ourselves a little bit more space to kind of round our finger around the string, and bringing the elbow slightly forward can really, really help with that. So if you have your first finger down and you feel like it's hitting the D string unintentionally, just kind of bringing that elbow around and also making sure that your wrist is staying nice and straight, that can really help.
Got it. Thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. So let's talk more about rhythms. So we talked about that shuffle one. That's a really great go-to kind of standard rhythm to throw into most tunes, and it works really well in most cases. One thing that I really like to do, and this is if you're feeling ambitious and are kind of comfortable with moving around to different parts of the fiddle, but one thing I really like to do is to actually go up to the second plane that we have here. So instead of just staying the whole time on the lower two strings, I like to actually go up to the higher two strings. So an example of that, if we were to play the chords from the beginning, it would sound like this. Okay, so we're kind of catching some additional notes in there along with the chord. So let me actually pull up this recording again. And I know we're just about out of time here, but I'll make this quick. So if we were to add in that rhythm with the A part, it would sound like this. 1, 2, 3, 4. And you get the idea. Yeah, so that's really fun. That's probably my favorite. And actually, I don't know how many of you have heard of a guy, he's a cellist, his name is Rashad Eggleston, and he is notorious for using crazy chords and chops and all kinds of stuff. He dresses like a goblin, and he's crazy, but he's a genius. He's one of those. And it's so fun watching him play and listening to him play because he will go really, really fast on the cello with his chops. So if you get the chance, actually I'm going to type his name into the chat here. Rashad Eggleston. And you can watch his rhythms that he uses, but that's one of his favorite that I tend to hear the most. Is he uses that one on the cello. So that's just kind of an example of, you know, a couple different rhythms that you can use with tunes like this. You know, obviously it's always good to start with a bass line and kind of have you know, a good foundation of, okay, these are the chords, this is the progression, and start simple with half notes, quarter notes, just kind of a very basic rhythm to just get comfortable with the chords. But then from there, you can really get creative and do whatever you want. Add whatever kind of rhythm you like and what makes sense for the tune. So, anybody have any questions about any of this? Chords, rhythms, the tune? Anybody want to hear anything again? Okay, well, here's what I'll do, just to kind of end us on a good note, no pun intended. I'm going to play through from the beginning of the tune. We're going to play it through, and I want you guys to try your best to just play the chords with me. I want you to pick a rhythm, whatever rhythm. You can keep it basic, you can spice it up and add some different rhythms, but I'm going to play it from the beginning. We're going to go through the whole thing beginning to end. And if you want to play melody, you can play melody too, but hopefully we'll have a good mix going. Okay, so 1, 2, 3. Awesome. I just realized I might have only played the A section once. Sorry about that if I did. But you guys look awesome. This is so fun. Yeah, so, and I'll be sending out a recording of this class in case any of you want to go back over anything that we talked about today. The tune, the chords, all of that, I'll send over to you guys soon, within the next probably day or two. I'll get it all together. So, but yeah, thank you all so much for coming. This was a lot of fun. Hopefully you guys enjoyed it, and we'll be doing another one in September, so I'll let you guys know when that happens. hope to see you guys there. But thanks again so much. Have a great rest of your night. Bye.